Hello everyone, this is the last video in the series of Moving Dorset Ahead, Healthy, Connected and Sustainably. And today I'm talking about moving Dorset ahead sustainably. So I want to talk about that in two different ways, looking at the external part of what we can influence and also how we can move ahead sustainably as Dorset Council highways. So first of all, externally, we need to think about how we can influence the decarbonisation of transport, and two of the main elements there are looking at the national EV infrastructure and also looking at hydrogen-powered vehicles. We also want to see how we can support public transport and encourage more people to be able to use that instead of using the car as the default. So seeing how we can support train travel and bus travel. It's also important to note that the highest use of carbon for our commuting isn't actually for people sitting in congested areas in towns. It's actually the commute from the smaller towns and villages to places of work. So we need to see how we can support that as well. Finally, we also need to look particularly at our active travel options and really see how we can make walking and cycling a viable alternative, particularly for short journeys compared to the car. And when we look internally, we need to recognise that Dorset Council has committed to being carbon neutral by 2040. That is a really challenging target and one at the moment that we're not set to hit. So we need to see how we can help reduce that carbon to make that target. So there's quite a few things we can do in that respect. Just for example, looking to see how we can reduce our work-related mileage, seeing if we can hold virtual meetings where it's appropriate. We also want to see for our own travel if we can have a fully electrified EV fleet, and also need to have the appropriate infrastructure to go in place with that. And for our larger vehicles, looking at hydrogen power potentially, things like our gritters and our lorries. On the smaller end of things, we always want to see if there's other things we can do to improve things. So looking at small tools, how we can move away from having petrol tools to having electric tools. We also need to think about sustainability of our buildings. So how can we make those more sustainable if we could put sustainable power generation onto our buildings. And a really big one for us is the products that we use. So can we specify or can we use products which require less carbon? One of our best examples of that is the energy reduced asphalt that we've been using for our default for our road material for over the last year now. So those are all sorts of things that we're working towards as a whole, as an organisation. But I think it's really important to also just say that anything that you do is also going to influence that. So if we all look at our own individual contribution to how we're affecting sustainability, if we each do our part, that's all going to come together as a whole to reduce the overall amount of carbon we use. Thank you for listening.